I'm Nihal Kularatne from Waikato University. My passion for electronic engineering started almost at the age of 6. When I lived in a small country, Sri Lanka, in the Indian Ocean, during the month of May, there were some very comprehensive decorations done for the Buddhist festivals. Huge flashing lights, thousands of flashing lights on these pandals depicting Lord Buddha's life. So now I was trying to see how these lights are flashed in various nice sequences. Then when I peeped onto the back of these decorations, I saw a huge piece of timber turning with electrical connections made and broken in various sequences, where this big roller was run by an electric motor. So then I started learning the switching involved in these kinds of decorations. So that hooked me onto this thing, and I started building tiny models of those decorations with tiny little things which I was turning manually. And that passion came all the way into my university life, and when I was entering the university, I was determined to be an electrical engineer. But at that time, most universities in the world in 1970s, they did not have any electronic engineering type programs. They had only electrical engineering. So I selected electrical engineering and picked more electronic engineering subjects. Then during my university time, as a hobbyist, I used to build transistor radios, amplifiers, etc. for the fun of doing it, and some of my friends had my products playing in their rooms, listening to FM channels and various other things. So that gave me a very practical footing on fundamentals of electrical engineering. For example, when I was doing my university entrance exams in the school, I was quite thorough with the transformer fundamentals, which I was learning that in the university only in the second year, not even in the first year. So my practical opportunities and the passion gave me a very good start to electronic engineering career. Then at the end of my graduation, I was offered a university lecturer's position in a university with the option of going for postgraduate opportunity abroad, but I didn't like teaching at that time. I said bye to that job in 6 months' time, went and joined the airports as an electronics engineer, working on ground equipment like communication systems, navigational aids, and similar systems. So for 6 years I was a person who was going deeper into these American or French installations in my country's only international airport and the associated area control center. So I learned huge amounts of practical electronic systems which were worth millions of dollars, designed by large teams of engineers. But when I was analyzing them, they all had essential principles of electronic engineering and related subjects. So due to my passion, I learned everything by playing with them, playing with instruments, fault tracing them. Sometimes I used to call it burning and learning. We work in power conditioning technique research too. I have sort of had some very bad experiences about 25 years back when I returned to my homeland after a short spell of work in another country and start building up a house in end of a lane. In this lane, around 7 p.m. in the night, the 230 volt line drops to less than 160 volts, and that really creates an issue of running any practical electronic equipment at home, because 95% of them do not work at such low voltages. Then when I looked at commercially available equipment families, none of them were designed to work for those worst case scenarios. So then we thought of, why not we develop our own work? So I was recruited by a brand new research institution in Sri Lanka. So, and I had access to university students project titles also. So we started developing a completely radical technique compared to any other commercial techniques people use to come up with single phase AC voltage regulators. So that work I continued for about 10 plus years back home in Sri Lanka, when I was working for Arthur C. Clarke Institute for Modern Technologies. So after I moved to Waikato University, my first postgraduate student was taking one of those developed techniques by me and added more capability to that, reducing the harmonics and other things. So now we are going through the patenting process of that work also. So this area will be very attractive to companies who are working on power quality equipment. For example, ABB, Alstom, and many other American companies may have some interest in these kinds of work. Okay, if I say something more about this voltage regulator technique, most of the commercial voltage regulator techniques uses bulky transformers, or they use mechanically moving gadgets with servo motors. Now in our technique, we don't have moving parts, no servo motors, and also we use very much smaller transformers, probably sort of 1/5 of that size, for example. Okay, this is a machine called lightning surge simulator. It creates the equivalent of nature's lightning propagated into a practical electronic equipment for testing that against the bad effects of lightning. Okay, we use this lightning surge simulator to test the lightning absorption capability of these devices called supercapacitors. When you look at the supercapacitors, they are rated for very low voltages, like less than 3 volts practically. Now this is 2.7 volts capability, but because these are able to store huge amounts of energy, short duration lightning can be absorbed into these ones without damaging them. We have done a piece of research about 2 years back, and we have collected practical information to prove that effect, which is published information right now. So now we are trying to develop various practical techniques for lightning surge absorbers or surge absorbable uninterruptible power supplies like equipment, using these research capabilities and these new devices like supercaps and similar devices. The best example I could give you is from where I was having my previous life of electronics in Sri Lanka. In Sri Lanka, for example, you had 2 very bad monsoon rain seasons. When the monsoon rain seasons, it starts with severe lightnings where you cannot sleep in the night. Now if you have unplugged all your electronic appliances off from the plug, you can guarantee that with the best of surge protectors and UPS etc. installed to those ones, those things will be gone by the morning. So into those kinds of worst case scenarios, our research will be very attractive. On a worldwide basis, the lightning damage to electronic equipment and the loss of services due to that effect could be in hundreds of millions of dollars a year, right? And most companies who are trying to develop and sell power quality products, they are trying to do marginal improvements on existing techniques. So what we try to do is to come up with radically new techniques. If you are a cellular phone company, if you give us a phone with the existing technique with the longest runtime battery and the option to insert our technique of the supercapacitor based voltage regulators, we will modify the low dropout regulator powered area to increase the overall battery runtime by minimizing the losses inside the cell phone. So the challenge is, if you show us the sort of basis to sort of insert this, we will show you how you can get more out of your battery pack. We are involved in multiple areas of research. If I take the area of supercapacitor applications, one area is high current voltage regulators, where the efficiency of the power supply can be improved while maintaining the quality of DC rail. So that was some work we did in 2008 to 2010 and so on, where we were granted a US patent early this year. Then another area we are developing is surge resistant uninterruptible power supplies based on supercapacitor energy storage. So that area of work will be very attractive to the companies who will be selling products like uninterruptible power supplies, power quality products, etc. in worst case power quality situations, like the countries around the equator belt, or where there's severe lightning phenomenon around the surroundings, etc. Actually, one thing I learned while developing this technique and talking to some American and other companies is that somebody at the top management level should make a decision to invest in these kinds of research areas for the benefit of their commercialization of new techniques. Then that will give them a leading edge. At that point, there must be something collaboratively working between the two institutions, like our university and those companies, so that everybody tries to achieve something for a win-win situation. Okay, around our labs here, we have quite a lot of expensive equipment like lightning surge simulators and various other test gear. Now, for example, this piece is about 55,000 New Zealand dollars. A basic lightning surge simulator. A more expensive one could be about 80,000 New Zealand dollars. So similar equipment we are in the process of acquiring into our high voltage laboratory, where we can do all the practical testing of commercial devices and new techniques we develop. After my graduation, I have a 36 years long career, and until my last 10 years in New Zealand, I was not a traditional academic. I was a practical engineer and a research engineer. So right now my theme is develop things practically, commercially useful, and with a creative outlook.